Wonderful world of social media. It's yours truly, Jimmy Williams again. I'm back with another great and informative video. Many of you know me from my YouTube channel and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I am better known as a wisdom economics coach. But today, putting all that aside, it's not about me today. It's about the climate of the country with racism and white supremacy and things of that nature. And I have one of the generals who's been around a long, long time. Many of you know who she is. She doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give her a proper one, which she deserves. None other than Mrs. Jane Elliott. And I'm on her website, okay? And I encourage you guys to visit her site at janeelliott.com. That's JaneEelliott.com. So there's a couple things on here I want to read real quick that kind of set the foundation of who she is and where she came from and the work that she's did for the nation and worldwide. Okay, Jane Elliott, internationally known teacher, lecturer, diversity trainer, and recipient of the National Mental Health Association Award for Excellence in Education. She exposes prejudice and bigotry for what it is, and a rational class system based upon purely arbitrary factors. And if you think that this does not apply to you, you're in for a rude awakening. I didn't say that. That's directly from our website. And I love it. I love how straight to the point she was. A little further down, and she told me this last time about herself, how she was really inspired to do the work she does. The blue eyes and brown eyes experience, if you just go to YouTube and Google it, Jane Elliott, the blue eyes and brown eyes experience, and you'll see exactly what she did. But here's what she said on her website, and you'll see a picture of her teaching the children back in the 60s when this took place. Okay, here's what I want to read to you. In response to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. back in 1968, Mrs. Jane Elliott devised the controversial and startling blue eyes, brown eyes exercise. This now famous exercise labels participants as inferior or superior based solely upon the color of their eyes and exposes them to the experience of being a minority. Sound familiar? Everyone who is exposed to Jane Elliott's work, be it through lecture, workshop, or video, is dramatically affected by it. And I can go on and on, but I call her one of my spiritual mothers, one of the matriarchs of this movement of waking up to realize that there's no such thing as another group of people being better than another. And she says, we're all one race. It's called the human race. These are the things I learned from her. She's just great at what she does, but I've learned so much. But that's the main thing I learned. I learned that white supremacy is a lie. It's really a joke. It's not real. It's a real system. But when you realize that no group's better than the other, then there's no such thing as supremacy over the other group. But how? But through brainwashing. She taught me that. You might remember this, Miss Jane Elliott. You told me that unless you were not indoctrinated when you went to school, you were taught white supremacy subconsciously and not know it. And that stuck with me for many, since I know it since 2016. And that stuck with me the whole time. I'm thinking, maybe I was indoctrinated. It's not really truth. And I just believed it because I was taught it. And she said, man, if you weren't taught that, then you didn't learn anything. But I'm going to ask her to come on now. And without further ado, I just want to let her talk today. I'm not going to ask her a ton of questions. I want to hear what's in the mind of Jane Elliott and where she feels the nation is going and the world is going, as it's opposed to where we're going as far as conquering or coming out of white supremacy, racism, and injustice. Okay? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I had a little issue we can hear you too. So Mother Jane, take it away.
Oh my goodness. You want to know what I have to say?
Yeah.
You have another 15 hours because I will talk your ears off. Here's what I see. Here's what I see as the problem. At the age of 88,
okay,
people call me old. Well, old for me is an acronym for octogenarian, living dangerously.
Oh wow.
Octogenarian is something over the age of 80, and living dangerously is what one does if one stands up and says publicly, look, people, you're being misled, not misled, but misled by things like, number one, right now, and ever since 1950, in the early 1950s, when Dwight Eisenhower allowed the words under God to be put into the pledge, and then started having prayer breakfasts in the White House, you need to realize that we have been being misled by evangelical Christianity.
Wow.
It's time to put a stop to this nonsense. I think people don't realize how dangerous the evangelical faith is. The evangelical faith was brought to this country by a man named Frank Schaeffer, who learned it from his father in the UK. And he brought it to this country because it was very successful for a while in the UK. He brought it to this country and taught it to people here. And now he has written at least 7 books, and I think 10, telling us why you must stay away from the evangelical faith because it has been twisted to the point where it is unrecognizable. What is happening right now in this country, yesterday is a result of people believing in evangelical faith and deciding that we should go back to the 17th and 1800s years. We must not go back. It is absolutely essential that we go forward. But if you go along with this evangelical thing, you are going to go backward, and women are going to go back into the kitchen and do nothing but have babies. We are going to increase the number of white babies in this country. We will build another thicker wall on the southern border of the United States to keep out those who are brown skinned, because Donald Trump said we don't want those brown-skinned people in this country because brown-skinned people reproduce too rapidly. Now you tell me that that isn't racism. And you tell me why 40% of the Republicans, and I don't call them Republicans anymore.
Okay.
Donald Trump knocked the L out of the word Republican. It became Republican because that's the only part of his anatomy that he thinks with, is the pubic area. You have to realize that the people he put, I'm sorry, this may be shocking to you, but at the age of 88, I don't dare use the proper language that will make everybody feel good about themselves. There is no way you can feel good about allowing a man to run again for the presidency or to do what he is doing in this country right now. A man who got his idea for governing by reading the book The New World Order, which was written by Adolf Hitler. Did you realize that?
No, I didn't know that. Wow. Unreal.
You need to know that. And you need to read, let me think of the name of the book in which I read that. But the man has in his bedside table in a locked drawer the writings of Adolf Hitler in the book The New World Order. When he came to power, the first 5 minutes after he was elected and after he got to be president, I thought, my God, this is Hitlerian. And then I thought, Jane, you're exaggerating. That's your imagination. And then I read the book, When at Times the Mob is Swayed. The title of the book is When at Times the Mob is Swayed. Everybody needs to read that book. And if you just read the first 2 chapters, you will realize why we must not allow that man and his followers to once again enter the White House as anything but maids and servants. The man is dangerous because of his ignorance and because of his belief in the Hitlerian way of doing business and of running a country.
Wow.
We're in very dangerous times right now, times that I can't remember it being this bad since I was born in 1933. And that's when Hitler and Franklin Roosevelt became president or leaders in their respective countries. Okay. I watched my father just storming, furious about what Adolf Hitler was doing in Germany for the first 12 years of my life. It wasn't until 1945 that we conquered Adolf Hitler and his ideas and began to rebuild Japan and Germany. We are right now in a situation very similar to what we were in 1933.
That's crazy.
It is very close to what was happening then, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to refuse to allow it to happen, because he's talking about to evangelical Christians as if he wants this to be only a Christian nation. Look, I've been to Saudi Arabia several times. Okay. I know what it's like to live in a theocracy. My daughter married a Saudi Arabian. I know what it's like to live in a theocracy. You don't want that. You don't want to live in a society that is governed by a particular religious group. We have to defeat that. We have to go back to the separation of church and state. We have to take the words for God out of the pledge. We have to stop introducing Christianity into the classroom and go back to the separation of church and state. Right now, we're watching something very dangerous happen because we have given up on that. It's time to go back to that part of the Constitution. Now, is there something else you want me to say or talk about?
Well, just listening to what you just said, people don't really realize this, and I had to really break it down and explain to them. And a lot of my Black followers, because I have a big following here on social media, it's almost like there's a brainwashing with modern day Christianity. They don't realize how much white supremacy is behind it and how the nation was founded. And I try to tell them, hey, the slave owners, were Christians. Now they say to me, well, you believe in Christ. I said, yeah, the real Christ, not the Christ that they made up and the one that they enslaved you by. And they get mad at me.
And not,
Right.
and not the one whose picture is hanging behind the minister as he's preaching on. In the Bible, it says that Jesus had kinky woolly hair and feet of bronze. You show me, and other than maybe in a Black church, and I resent using the words black and white. Those two words that people do not come in black and white.
Absolutely.
You know that, and I know that. Your face is brown, your beard is black, your face is not black. I can tell where your beard stops and your skin begins. So it's time for us to, and you can look at me and see that my hair is white and my skin is not.
Right.
You're not black and I'm not white. We are both shades of brown.
Yeah.
Every human being on the face of the earth is a shade of brown. And those of you who want to argue with me over that, go ahead, have a ball. But get the National Geographic magazine for April of 2018 and read it.
Mm-hmm.
On the front cover are two little girls, one with dark skin, one with lighter skin. They are twins.
Okay.
Their father is African American and their mother is Aryan. Not Aryan. No, she's not Aryan. That's the Hitler word. No, she is what we call white, but she isn't. She's a faded black person, as all the rest of us are. Any human being on the face of the earth is somebody whose ancestors faded as the original ones got farther and farther from the equator, and their face, their skin, their hair, and their eyes got lighter. Has nothing to do with psychology. It has to do with our body's response to the natural environment. It's time to get over calling people black and white. Because, you see, the people who started that, am I boring you? Because if I am, I can take a drink now and let you rest a while.
Absolutely love it. People that are watching, they're going, man, she's starting a war here, but you got to say it. You got to speak the truth to power.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy to start a war with you over this, because during the Spanish Inquisition in the late 1400s, a man named Torquemada, who was absolutely determined that he was going to change everybody's religion to Catholicism.
Wow.
He went around killing people that he thought couldn't possibly be Christians. Then he realized that he had killed some people who were Christians, and he knew then that you can't tell what a person's religion is by looking at them. So he had to find a way to determine who deserved and might be Christian and deserved to live, and who might not be Christian because of, so he set upon skin color.
Mm-hmm.
White in the dictionary is the color of goodness and purity.
Wow.
Black in the dictionary is the definition for black is savagery and evil.
Okay.
So here we are. We are set upon now we are there's a chasm between us. Good, perfect people are white. Savage, evil people are black. So in comes a little dark-skinned boy into an elementary classroom, and their teacher, their melanemic teacher, which is if you don't have enough iron in your blood to keep your health, you're called anemic. If you don't have enough melanin in your skin to protect yourselves from the dangerous rays of the sun, you must be melanemic. Okay, so this I use melanemic instead of white because white's a lie. Melanemic is the truth. So in comes this little melanaceous or melanotic boy, and this melanemic teacher says, oh, here's another little black boy. She has put that kid in a position of, you are savage and evil, and I have to remake you in order for you to be more like me. And that's what happens in classrooms all over the United States of America all day long, because of the indoctrination that the people who are teaching have had at the hands of people who don't know what they're talking about.
Wow. Stop right there. I want to recap. So what up? And I'm doing this because the people that are listening, you give so many revelations and truths, they're like, their brains probably exploding. And so I'm going to recap to make sure I'm understanding. So you're saying everybody came from one race of people, and the people that were here first, based on what you're saying, they were melanated, and everybody branched from that. We're just the grands and great grands and all that. Or you said cousins, we're all cousins, we're related. But we all came from black people, And you're saying the
We
indoctrination.
didn't come from black people. We didn't come from black people. We came from Africans who were highly melanated. They were melanaceous and melanotic. They were not black. Okay?
So guys, as you can see, we got to get away from black and white. That makes so much sense because racism, I think they established that to create these colors. So you're right about that. So thank you for that. So we all came from melanated Africans. And you're saying the school system is teaching that those being melanated is a bad thing, basically. And they put that into the kids, right? Is that what you're saying now?
Right. We put it in, hey, we start before you're born.
Okay.
We start pronatally
Mm-hmm.
to convince the carriers of somebody who might be melanaceous and melanotic, to convince that mother that she's going to have a son that is less than, or a daughter that is less than.
Okay.
We start pronatally. Women who are melanaceous and melanotic don't get the same treatment in the delivery room that melanemic women do. And I know that because I have talked to so many nurses, so many people who work in delivery rooms who tell me the most ungodly horror stories, and mothers who have gone through that situation. I'll never forget the mother
Really?
to whom the doctor said after the child was born, and she was a melanated woman, he said to her, your child will never be able to walk or talk. We're going to take care of him here. And she said, I'm taking my kid home. He said, no, you'll never be able to handle him, and we'll keep him here. She said, I'm taking my child home. So she took her child home and she raised him, and he is a fully functioning adult person today. Now, how many people does that happen to in the delivery rooms in hospitals all over the United States of America? It's the reason I was asked to talk to a group of women who are all midwives. And they are midwives because they want all women to be treated the same during the delivery of their child. They went into midwifery so that all women would be treated fairly. And there were women of many different color groups in that group of midwives. That's exactly what we need. We need women. We need women for lots of reasons, but one of the reasons we need women, particularly women of color, is because they've been through stuff that practically no male goes through, and practically no melanemic male goes through, because they don't have to.
Right.
If you're born what we call white, you're all right. If you're born a different color, then that's too bad for you. We'll do what we can for you, and we'll see to it that the teachers are and you see, the difference between me and a whole lot of people who are in the classroom is I'm not a teacher.
Okay.
We teach dogs and cats and horses and even chickens to behave in ways that they will get rewarded for. That's not what I do. I'm an educator. The word educator comes from the root duck deuce, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means the act of, and the suffix or, which means one who does. I am an educator. People who say, I'm a teacher and I just love teaching my little black boys. I want to walk over and rip her head off because she isn't using it. We might as well give it to somebody else.
Wow.
Somebody could
Right there.
they could study.
Let's take a,
We got to stop hiring teachers and start hiring educators. But first we have to re-educate the educators, because educators of all colors believe that Columbus discovered America. Columbus didn't discover America. There were people here before he got here, and those people came from Africa.
Okay.
They didn't spring up out of the ground. They came from Africa.
All right.
Go ahead, ask a question, see if you dare.
No, I want you to stay right there. We're going to come back to the whole Christopher Columbus thing, because that's, oh my gosh, you're hitting all the things I want to talk about. But I got to back up for a minute. You said something important. Now, you said that, so obviously there's racism even in the delivery room, right? So, and for those who don't understand that the melanation, what you're saying to them, because who don't really understand this, black and white. So black women get treated different than white women, which they get treated inferior. They don't get the same treatment if we're talking black and white, right? So just so they get it, right? And so they get treated bad with their babies and all that. But the funny thing is, here's the thing. What is this big movement about anti-abortion? Because I got a feeling it's something to do with their people and their racism. They're trying to make their numbers better. That's what I'm thinking. What?
Oh, you got it.
And then
you know exactly what that's about.
Sure.
That is about that within 30 years, what so-called white people, melanemic people, will be a numerical minority in the United States of America. That's what the demographics show us, that within 30 years, melanemic white people will no longer be in the majority, and we will be
Mhm.
We will have, our laws will be written by, and our police departments will be hired by people of color.
Wow.
Melanated
Okay.
people are scared to death about that. And that's the reason for groups like the Proud Boys and QAnon and the Three Percenters and the KKK have always been about, let's destroy those who are of a different color, because that will prove how superior we are. We can kill more people than you can. We're good at that. We are really good at killing. But you need to realize that the reason for the wall on the southern border of the United States is to see to it that we don't get overcome by people of color more rapidly. The reason Donald Trump got elected was because he appealed to the racism in his white, so-called white followers. This is all about keeping the number of people of color down and the number of white people up. We want to do away with abortion because a man named Ben Wattenberg wrote a book entitled The Birth Dearth in 1987.
Okay.
And the first paragraph of that book said, the major problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born.
Wow.
If we don't do something about this and do it soon, white people will no longer be a numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, he wrote that in 1987. I bought 3 copies of it because I thought, this is ridiculous. I've got to get as many copies of this as I can. It cost me a bunch of money. I've got to see to it that my children and my grandchildren read this ridiculous book so they'll know what's coming if they don't do something about it. He said there are 3 things we can do to stop this. Number 1, we could pay women to have babies, as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He said the second thing we could do is limit the number of legal immigrants allowed into this country. Unfortunately, the vast majority of those wanting to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. Number 3, no, increase the number of legal immigrants. He said we don't want to do that. Number 3, we should remember that 60% of the fetuses that are born every year, that are aborted every year, are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. Now, he wrote that in 1968. I read it and I exploded. Every place I went, every college I talked to, every university I talked to, every group of industrial employees I talked to, I said, listen, be careful about this. This man wants to increase the number of white babies at the cost of taking away women's freedom to make decisions about their own bodies. Wow. People looked at me like, really are a nutcase, aren't you, Elliott? And I think, it's going to happen. Pay attention, people. Pay attention. Wow. Black women were paying attention. Melanaceous and melanotic women were paying attention. And because of that, they helped Joe Biden to get elected.
Yep.
Now, he isn't perfect, but he's sure better than the alternative. Now, we're going to have to depend on those women to keep a Republican from getting elected in 2024. We must not allow that to happen. Wow. Those women, there are enough of them. There are enough of those women who can take their husbands by the neck or whatever they have to reach for and drag them to the voting booth and say, you will vote for the other person. You will vote Democrat because we cannot afford to have another Republican in the presidency.
Okay. Wow.
Now, wait a minute. I have to caution you about something. Don't everybody run out and buy a copy of The Birth Dearth, because after he wrote that, he got so many angry comments about it that he had to rewrite it. And the second one is full of charts and tables and graphs and statistics that prove what he wants to say without saying it out loud. Now, you have to remember, Benjamin Disraeli said there are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Right. Wow.
Mr. Wattenberg used statistics to make his point the second time around, and then he died, I think, of embarrassment. But anyway, he was a brilliant man, absolutely brilliant Jewish man. But when he wrote the first edition of The Birth Dearth, he taught me more than he wanted me to know.
Really? More?
Yeah.
Wow.
More than he wanted me to know, because now I know why somebody like a Donald Trump gets elected. Yeah. And now I know why we put the words under God in the pledge. And now I know why we have prayer breakfasts in the White House. And now I know why we have a wall on the southern border of the United States. And it's the whole thing is so convoluted and the result of such learned ignorance. It is learned ignorance and then becomes self-imposed ignorance. The truth is out there. People go to my website, download the printed learning materials. The first page is a set of typical statements that white folks make. That all of you white folks, and I hate to use the word white, but that's what you call yourselves. I want to be sure you know who I'm talking to here. All of you white folks will recognize every one of those statements.
Really?
I'll bet every one of you heard somebody say, when I see color, I don't see people. When I see people, I don't see people as black or brown or red or yellow. I just see people. Or I'm sure you've heard somebody say in your presence, I don't see color.
Yep.
I think we're all the same.
It's big. Christian people say it a lot. And now here's what I tell them. Listen, you've been brainwashed. The Most High who made us sees color. That's why he made us different. If you go into an animal kingdom, everybody can't be the king. You don't have a lion. A lion is brown with a mane. Then you have, the giraffe, and it's a kingdom, and it's a colorful kingdom. So when I hear a white person, even a black person say it, I say they have some form of indoctrination with Christianity itself, the evil of it. I didn't say Christ was evil. I didn't say Christ was evil, but the lie that's put behind. So they cover that up. Oh, and I don't see it. Meanwhile, they'll see a black man get beat in the street, and I'm going to go somewhere with this. They don't mind him dying, but you want to jump out. Let me finish. They want to jump in the street and talk about pro-life. Well, if you're pro-life, what does that mean? Who are you talking about pro-life for? You can't be talking about everybody. Who are you talking about?
Nope.
Pro-life. Why don't you stop him from getting killed in the street?
But if you're white, it's all right to be ignorant.
Okay, there you go.
In fact, if you're white, you are expected to be ignorant. People say to me, did you grow up in Riceville, Iowa? And they say, where did you grow up? And I say, why? Well, did you grow up in Riceville, Iowa? I said, no, I grew older in Riceville, Iowa.
Right.
I grew up when I left there, moved to Waterloo, where a large percentage of the population was not white. Really? And my husband ran a store in the north end of Waterloo. He and I learned so much from that group of people, that group of brilliant people who had been called less than brilliant all their lives. And so they lived down, many of them, unfortunately, lived down to people's expectations of them, because the worst thing you can be in a classroom is a brilliant black person.
Wow.
You know that. I know that. All you have to do is walk into any classroom in the United States of America and look at, if you think we aren't teaching racism, look at the map. Look at the pull down map or the map on the wall, the map of the world. You will see a Mercator projection map in which Greenland, get a picture of it in your mind. You see Greenland hanging down there like a ripe plum in the middle of that map?
See it.
Yeah, that's there. It's there. We can all see it. We can all relate to that. And then you look for the equator. And the equator is an imaginary line around the outer surface of the earth, halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. Look again at the Mercator map. Look for the equator halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. It ain't there.
It's not there.
It's 2/3 of the way down the map.
Yeah.
The equator on the Mercator map is 2/3 of the way down the map. And the reason it's like that is because the Pope in Mercator's time commissioned Mercator to make a map of the world that showed the spread of Christianity.
Oh, wow.
So all the countries in the northern part of the map above the equator, in 2/3 of the map, are larger than the countries in the southern part of the map. On that map, Greenland is larger than South America.
Yeah. Wow.
And on the legend at the bottom of the map, it says South America is actually 9 times larger than Greenland. Now, evidently, teachers aren't reading that. Yeah. Get the Mercator map and look at it. It will blow you away. Okay. Evidently, teachers aren't reading that legend. And if they are, they aren't explaining it to their students. Because if they did, they'd stop using that map. Now, I can show you a better map. You have time, I can run and get it. It's right over there.
Yes, you can, please.
Don't go away.
Okay.
Because you need to see the map. You might be familiar with it.
Okay.
If you aren't, you need to get familiar with it, because it's one of the most important things that we can do in the school to stop some of the spread of racism, because we're spreading ignorance.
Okay.
This is the Peters projection map. See that map?
Yeah.
See Greenland up here, this little tiny thing?
Yes, I see it. Wow.
Yeah. Now, see South America?
Yes. Wow.
See Africa?
Yeah. Wow.
The country, the land masses on this map are the right size. They aren't the shape that you're accustomed to seeing, but they are the right size.
Okay. Wow.
Canada does not stretch from hell to breakfast on this map.
It doesn't.
On the Mercator map, it starts clear down here and go clear up there. It's just amazing.
It's amazing.
This map has the land masses of the earth in the right proportion. It's time for kids to see copies of this map. You go to maps.com, odtmaps.com, and tell them that you listened to me, whether or not you're listening. Tell them that you learned about this map and you want copies of this map for your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, nephews, and for your ignorant neighbors. Everybody needs to see this map. Teachers aren't going to like it because they're accustomed to the Mercator map. Get the Mercator map. If you're going to have the Mercator map in the school, have this one beside it on the wall. Same size. You can get this in place card size, and I got them for my kids many years ago, so that when they eat breakfast in the morning, they were seeing the world as I want them to see it, not the way the teachers want them to see it. You can get them in place card size, you can get them in place mat size, you can get them in table size, and you can get them in wall size. Go to ADT and get this map.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. I got one more question for you, and we'll let you go, because that's going to blow their mind. And again, you're probably going to have people out there who teach, not really educate, but teach, and they'll be offended and say, well, what's she talking
about? School is going to start in about 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Teachers need to have copies of that map in their hand when they go to get their classroom ready for students. And they need to put that map on the wall. And here's another map they need to put on the wall. Get the National Geographic magazine for April of 2018. Take out the page. You don't dare tear it because you're going to go to the library, but you probably don't want to order a copy of it. But go to the library and sign it out and download that map in that National Geographic magazine, because it shows where we all came from and how in 2 waves people from Africa managed to populate every landmass on the face of the earth without any modern technology and without any so-called white people showing them the way. Wow. There were no white people. There were no people called white people when those Africans left the equator. There were no white people until those Africans, their bodies changed color in reaction to the loss of sunlight. You don't get much sunlight in the northern European areas. So most people from those areas are lighter skin, lighter eyes, and have lighter hair. People, you have to realize that we owe everything we have to those people from Africa. You and I are 30th to 50th cousins. And if every person listening to this, and if anybody's still listening, trace your DNA back as far as you can, and you will find that a percentage of your DNA, every single one of you, came from a country in Africa.
I'm going to say this. If I were to say that, or black people were to say it, or so-called black people were to say that, they'd be like, we're going to question it. Now, when you say it, they're going to actually go look it up. That doesn't mean they're actually going to believe it, but at least they'll say, you know what? A so-called white woman said it. Let's go look into this. And you've been doing this for many years, so I'm glad.
And isn't that pathetic? Isn't that pathetic?
Yep.
We have all learned the lie, and we all respond to the lie instead of saying to our children, any children, your skin color will not be, in my classroom, allowed to determine your worth as a human being or your ability to learn. Make no mistake about this. I will not discriminate against you because of my ignorance about skin color. Racism is ignorance, learned ignorance, and we reinforce it every day, every hour of every day in every classroom in the United States of America. And I don't think that many melanaceous or melanotic teachers, educators, know all the things that I know, because they've been busy trying to make a living and trying to survive in spite of what we so-called white people have been doing to and about them. They haven't had time to delve into this stuff. They should take the time so that their children will not be as ignorant as my children were and as most children are in this country today.
Wow. I got one more point to make. You said so much in that period of time. I want to say thank you for being a woman of integrity, not caring, and you put your life on the line when you speak like this. The racism and hate and ignorance is so bad that, just like in Dr. King's day, white people, so-called white people who marched with him, they lost their lives. And this is documented. But when you talk like this, you upset the status quo in the racist system that they want to continue to perpetuate over years. But I want to say this to you. to your point, this was true. I got to go look this up and get the actual story. But there was a college professor, a so-called white professor, sat down with his students, had a class of 300 people, majority white, so-called white, and he said, you know, we all came from Africa. And do you know 90% of the so-called white kids got up angry with him? Now, he has evidence. It's one thing to say something. But when you have archaeology and, you know, you have technology and DNA and things of that nature to back it and science to back it, why are you still upset? They got up, some of them cursed at the guy, walked out and said, we didn't come from Africa. They believed that somehow they were created some other way, and it
Right.
destroyed their superiority complex. And when I saw it, I marveled. I couldn't believe it, but it actually happened. And it probably happens more often now that this truth comes out. To my last point to you, again, we got to go back to the white evangelicals, the so-called white evangelicals that we talked about, them standing by when people get killed in the street. You know, so they're saying they're all about us progressing and for lives, but they're really quote unquote white lives matter, right? Because it ain't all lives. When they talk about abortion, we don't want abortion. If you're pro-life, why are you letting people die? Now, here's the last thing I want to say. What is the big deal about this whole, because we're trying to come up with truth. This whole critical race theory, they kind of weaponize it because all we're doing is, I'm almost there.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait.
Hmm?
CRT, critical race theory.
Huh?
The minute I heard it and I saw the word race in it, I thought, well, you silly ass. Race is real.
Yeah.
Race is a social construct. It is not a social construct. It's a damn lie. But if you call it a social construct, that's more syllables. So that psychiatrists and psychologists and sociology teachers are happy to say a social construct. No, it's a damn lie. There's only one race and we're all members of the same race. So for me, when I give a speech, if I ever do again, but now I'm on the banned list of speakers, I am banned in colleges and universities, just like my book has been banned. I'm on the list with Mark Twain and Alice Walker and all those fabulous people, and that's the biggest compliment I've ever been paid. However, for me, CRT stands for Curriculum Respecting Truth.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to get at. So stop right there. So basically, why are, and I don't want to say Republicans, because I want to be somewhat objective about politics. For me and my family, the people that I know, because we've come to some truths about some things. We don't really trust the left or the right. When we hear Republican, Democrat, what we're thinking of in our head, a lot of us so-called black people, we say, that's an ego, but the left is the left side of white supremacy. The right is the right side of white supremacy. It's one bird, but two different wings, and the feathers are everywhere. Both of them, you know, prostituted so-called black people for their benefit. They may do it in a different way. You know, the Republicans will lynch you in the public, but maybe the other ones, they'll lynch you in the dark with laws. That's how we see it. So when they start arguing about the CRT, like what you said, a lot of us are going, what are they trying to do with that? Are they, the person who invented it, and I know the person's name, I don't want to get to that, but she's basically trying to say, let's go tell the truth about what happened back in the day. What's wrong with that? Would that be really educating them the right way? I want to get your opinion on that.
You take the truth out of the description by calling it racial theory.
We take the truth out of it. Okay.
You call it racial. The minute you put race in there, you are reintroducing the myth of more than one race. Gotcha. So that you can't tell the truth. And it's a theory instead of the truth. So instead of using a theory about race and being critical about that theory, what we need to do is have a curriculum that recognizes the truth of only one race on the face of the earth. Now, we have made mistakes in the past for the last, this has only been going on since 1580.
Okay.
In the word race, meaning a specific group of people, came out of France in 1580. That's only what, a little over 400 years ago. Before that, there were no different races. There were just people of different color groups, different religious groups, different nationalities, and different genders, different sexual orientations, but they were not different races. If we could take the word race out of critical race theory and change it to curriculum respecting truth, then you don't have to talk about a whole lot of different races, and you can leave that damn Mercator map in the box that it came in and put the Peter's map up on the wall and say, boys and girls, here's something that is true.
Right. On
this map, the proportion and percentages on this map, on these sizes, are right. And these are the things I want you to know. I'm going to provide for you a curriculum that respects the truth. Columbus did not discover America. There were people up from Africa here between 20,000 and 10,000 years before Columbus was a gleam in his father's eye. And I want you all to know that the reason this continent was discovered was because brilliant people from Africa left their homeland and without any modern technology populated every landmass on the face of the earth. Now, I had this argument with a Japanese woman 2 years ago at my daughter's house.
Okay.
And she said, we came from Peking man. I said, well, no, you didn't. And you've been misled. But here's what I need you to do. Go home, get your DNA tested, take it back as far as you can, and then let me know what you find out. She sent me a letter 2 weeks later, and it said, Jane, I found out that you were right. My people were the first Afro-Asian people to enter the country of Japan.
Unreal. Wow. I love it. I love it. That's
unreal what we could learn if we would just stop thinking about the word race and realize that we are all Homo sapiens. Now, when you say Homo sapiens to the Proud Boys, they think you're talking about homosexuals because they aren't real bright, any of them. You need to realize the next time the Proud Boys come to town, you need to say to them, when God sent somebody to welcome the baby Jesus, he didn't send 3 proud boys. He sent 3 wise men.
He did.
Now, what we need in the United States of America is wise men instead of proud boys. I was married to a wise man. When I married him, by the time he lived with me for a couple of years, he's a much wiser man. But he was a man. Yeah, and I really resent every time I have to tell somebody how to spell my email address. They say, do you mean B as in boy? I say, no, I don't mean B as in boy. That's the word we have used to keep black males down ever since we started using English in this country. I don't mean B for boy. I mean B for beautiful, B for brilliant. I don't care if you say B for bitch, because bitch for me is an acronym for being in total control, honey.
I love it. I love that. Because most people are going
to every woman of color knows exactly what that means when you call her that. She knows that you are accusing her of being in control, and that means that you're out of control. If you have to use that word to a woman, it means that you're out of control and you're trying to get back into control in the situation.
Mother Jane, you have so much that you've given already, and I hate to even cut this short. I can't believe I have to do this, but we got to do it again because I'm telling you, we're going to get a lot of people coming back and wanting to know, let her break this down some more, and I'll break it down again. Well, what I want to, guys, watch it over and over again. Get it in your spirit. Get the maps that we talk about and go do what she said. And because she's busy. I'm not the only one that wants to talk to her. She probably could have denied me and talked to 5 other people today. So we have to respect her time. But I got a feeling they're going to want you back again because there's so much you gave us, and you have to dissect information. And when it comes to education, a mentor told me this. He said, when you first hear it the first time, the indoctrination of it comes if you keep hearing it over and over again. So you have to unlearn yourself the same way. If you tell a lie, I like what Dr. King said, a lie can't live forever. But some lies have lived 400 years, 500 years because we have been taught the truth. But when you hear this truth, like what you're talking, they have to hear it more than one time to get it in their spirit and unlearn what they've been taught. So guys, listen.
But you need to remember that if you have an item to sell, you have to, the person who might buy it, the customer, has to hear the glowing description of that item at least 4 times before they'll buy the item. That's a fact. That's the reason we have commercials on television, because we want those people who are watching television all the time and who are in fact screen addicted. All right. We want them to buy those products. So we say it over and over and over. Now, I will say, I don't know how many times I've said it, but I'll say it over and over. There's only one race of people on the face of the earth, and that's the human race. We're all members of the same race, and you and I are 20th to 30th to 50th cousins, period.
Awesome.
We just have to have people out there saying it over and over and over until it gets into the minds of those who have never heard it before. Some people have never had somebody stand up in front of them and say, well, all the people in this room who consider themselves members of the human race, please stand. Everybody stands. Exactly. There it is, people. You all know you're all members of the same race. But now, if I say, well, all the white people stand, you white folks will stand and everybody else will laugh at you because you just denied what you know.
That's amazing. Amazing. I want to recap on one thing you said for closing. So just to recap, guys, Jane Elliott is not against CRT. She's just against the word race in it, because she's explained that we are the same race. So when you put critical race, you put that word together, you're saying that there's another race of people over here. No, what she's saying is we're all the same. But she's for the idea of CRT as far as it re-educating what happened back in the day. You know, young kids need to know what really happened to the extent that they can accept it. Because when you're little, you really don't know much. But when you're indoctrinated with something false, you have to re-indoctrinate again. That's what CRT, if it's taught the right way, I'm not saying race, if it's taught the right way, it's going to re-educate our people. All walks. I don't want to say black or white. Like she said, we're all one, different levels of black, brown, or whatever you want to call us, and lighter and darker, but we're one group of people. So let's clarify that, because people will hear probably saying that she's against critical race. She's not. She's against the word race, okay, because it separates. In fact, the white man, the so-called white man that made it, he did it on purpose to say, you know, this group is inferior, the blacks and the other groups, and that's how racism took off. Like she said, in the 1500s, that's when the word came around. Why? To benefit economically, because when you have race and you have inferior, and then you can justify enslaving someone, making them build your country, and that's what it's about. So it's undoing.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait a minute. In order to reinforce what you're saying, everyone listening to this, if there's anyone still listening, get the book Rich Thanks to Racism.
Wow. Say that again.
Rich Thanks to Racism. That's the name of the book. And it will tell you why charter schools are being formed. It will tell you so many things that you didn't realize about how profit-making racism is. Racism is a profit-making business.
That's my point.
You need to know that. You've got to get the book Rich Thanks to Racism.
Amazing. I'm going to get it because I never read it myself. Every time I get on here, you give me something. I read a lot of books. I've probably read 500 books, but I have not read that one. And it's just so much out there to learn. So thank you for being educating us today. Okay, I really appreciate it. Any closing thoughts before we go?
Right now, yes. The way to get over your self-imposed ignorance is to read books from people who know what they're talking about. And that means people who are melanaceous and melanotic. Because we melanated people don't know about racism other than as those who will go along to get along. Mm-hmm. People who are melanaceous and melanotic know the truth. You need to listen to them, and you need to read Beyond Racism by Whitney Young.
Beyond Racism.
Beyond Racism.
Okay.
My good Lord, everybody read that book. Just go to my website, download the printed materials, do what you're told to do on the first three, then go to the bibliography and read every book on that bibliography under racism.
Wow.
Because we have to educate ourselves. And it's only a few. It won't kill your day. You can get through the whole mess in about a month. If you read them. If you read them, you'll come out a different person at the end of the month, which is a good thing if you're a white racist or if you're a racist of color, because people of color are racist too. We teach you how to do that.
Oh, wow. All right, guys, you better get this. You better get this. And I need to do it myself. Okay. So much. I haven't, again, I read a lot, but not enough, obviously. If you think you read it all, guys, there's so much more information out there to re-educate yourself. And what I want to say, here's what I want to say. Is there anything that you want, is there any kind of, if with your vision, what you're trying to accomplish, do you accept donations on your website, or how would you have someone
No. If you have money to make a donation to somebody, use it to buy Peter's projection maps for the schools in your city.
Okay.
Go to ODT, tell them you want to buy a bunch of Peter's projection maps so that students will be educated in more sensible ways, and use any money that you might have donated to my welfare to buy maps for schools in your city. Oh. Don't do it in my name. Do it because in the name of education. Education means to lead people out of ignorance. That is not what the Mercator map does. The Peter's projection map does a much better job of it. So use that money to buy maps.
Okay. One last thing you told me a while back, I said, thank you for helping us. And I said, helping speaking out on behalf of African-American people and all, and standing up for us and being there as an ally with us. And you said, I'm not doing it for you, but I want you to tell them why you're doing it. So they need to hear this. Why are you actually why are you speaking out against this so much? Why have you dedicated?
Because my dad said on a daily basis, you know the difference between right and wrong. Now do the right thing, goddammit.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he shouldn't swear, but I didn't challenge him on it because I knew that he would think the right thing was to make some little stripes on my legs with a willow switch so that I wouldn't confront him anymore or contradict him. We know the difference between right and wrong. Mm-hmm. It's time to do the right thing. And if we do the right thing, we will stop treating people positively or negatively on the basis of our self-imposed ignorance. And we'll take those Peter's projection maps to the schools and we'll say to the teachers, we expect you to put this map on the wall so that my children, my own children, my nieces and nephews, my neighbors' children will see the truth instead of the lie. And if you point out to her where the equator is on the Mercator map, which is 2/3 of the way down the map, and say to her or him, now, are you going to continue to say that equator means equal parts? Yeah. Are you going to continue to call this the Northern Hemisphere? Because hemi means half, and on the Mercator map, the Northern Hemisphere is not half the map, it's 2/3 of the map. So when you use that map, you have to change your vocabulary or teach lies about your vocabulary.
Wow. I'm just amazed that, you know, I'm 47 years old. I would have never guessed that they've been keeping that from us. There's so much stuff that you don't know in the school system that you've been taught, and you don't even think that it's wrong. So you're uncovering. We still.
I was 41 years old when you were born.
Oh yeah, no. Did you guys hear that? And she looks better than me. I feel bad now. You put me out there, and you. No, I'm telling you, you've been around a long time.
No, what I'm saying is, I had 41 more years than you've had to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
I learned the same crap that you did when I was in elementary, junior, senior high school, and college. And then I started reading things that I hadn't been told to read in any of those institutions. And I realized, oh my God, I've been lied to all these years. And I've been a teacher, and that's all I've been as a teacher. And now I have to change my whole mental set and become an educator.
That's amazing. But at least you made the adjustment and say, you know, I've been taught wrong. That the biggest problem is when people find truth, they're not even open to re-educating and learning, getting more information. They just stop and become, you know, very, very, you know, they're okay with ignorance. And that's what really bothers me. So I'm glad you did that, because that's how you were able to become this person that can speak out fervently without hesitation and know what you're talking about to help change the generation.
But don't you realize that I have freedom and you don't?
Wow. Explain.
Liberty and justice for all? No, I have liberty. You don't have it, and you don't get justice. You know that, and yet you stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every morning.
I used to say
nobody. And
I used to.
Yeah, I used to say to my third graders, people, you don't have to say the words under God in the pledge if you don't want to.
Okay.
Because I know that there are children in this building whose kids don't believe in praying publicly. So if you don't want to use the words under God in the pledge, you don't have to. And they'd all look at me like, are you crazy? And I'd think, yeah.
Yeah, you are.
I'm crazy. Not even a fruitcake.
Yeah.
The insane asylums are full of people who know more than those of us on the outside do.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And we call them crazy. Yeah. Anyway, we can make. Somebody said one person can't make a difference. Oh yes, one person can. Anytime anybody says to me one person can't make a difference, I say, do you want to explain Adolf Hitler to me?
Yep.
And then do you want to explain Jesus Christ to me?
And Dr. Martin Luther King.
And then we won't mention dumb woman from Alaska, who is back in the picture.
And Jane Elliott. And see, you always make yourself a no reputation. And I'm thankful that the Most High protected you from all, the bad things that could have went wrong. And if you do what he tells you to do, he'll always protect you. And I can see that you've done just that. So on that note,
I wish I had $1 bill for every death threat I've gotten. It just gets to the point where I get one on the telephone, and I get them in conversation.
Serious?
It happens in the middle of the night, and they're blah, 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 and they're drunk. And so I hang the telephone over the side of the bell, and I go, yeah, now what was it you said? Blah, 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 blah. I go back to now what was it you said? I did that to somebody one night till about 2:00 in the morning. And I thought, your wife is going to be so mad when she gets this telephone, until she gets this bill. Yeah. Well, you get what you ask for.
Wow. I want you guys to hear something. the Most High has protected this woman for almost a century. We don't have to say what her age is. I never tell a woman's age. I think she told it earlier, but that's a testimony that you don't have to be afraid to speak truth to power. That's why I look up to her. And Mother, on that note, we have to go because I have to get on another call. I'm pretty sure you got a ton of people that want to talk to you outside of this and get your education. Okay, so thank you again. All right, we all love you, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Tell them to send me an email and I'll answer their questions.
Okay, and I'm going to make sure I put her email in the description, guys, and you can communicate with her directly. Okay, she's one of the people that has never put herself on a pedestal and not be able to reach the average person. That's why I love her. So we'll talk to you soon.
Well, okay, thanks for calling.
Okay, Mother. Bye bye. Take care, guys.
Bye now.